What's up, scholars? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about Punk Hazard, which is a hilarious little arc that I have thoroughly enjoyed, mostly because of the alliance with Law and Luffy. It's brought me so much joy. I can't even explain how happy this alliance has made me, because Law he has no idea what he's gotten himself into, and I am living for it. I'm absolutely exhausted today. It's been a very, very long day, so we're gonna get through this review as best I can. If I'm stumbling over my words or I seem a little bit out of it, I'm sorry. I'm gonna do the best I can. So bear with me through this review. It's gonna be a good one though. So this arc covered a lot of information and it kind of gave us our first real introduction to the new world. We start off with being in the Sea of Flames and this distress call that we get from Punk Hazard talking about a samurai from Wano that has been attacking everybody, and so Luffy decides that he wants to go to Punk Hazard and they set out to investigate. It's him, Robin, Zoro, and Usopp that head to the island first in order to investigate, see where the distress call is coming from, even though Robin kind of thinks it might be a trap. And as they're on this burning island, which one side is like burning hot and the other side is freezing cold, it's really cool dynamic, especially, I'm skipping ahead, but it's fine, because Punk Hazard was the fighting ground for Akainu and Aokiji, so like the effects of their fight have like transformed the landscape and like the weather of that area, like if it's burning and then the ice, crazy. That's crazy. So while they're on the fire side of the island, they actually fight and meet a dragon, which I'm so happy to get dragons. I love dragons. I want more dragons in the show. We got two in this arc, well, three in this arc, and I want more dragons in One Piece, please and thank you. So they fight a dragon. They easily defeat this dragon, and Luffy finds a pair of human legs on him, which he attaches to himself to call himself a centaur. Listen, Luffy's humor is always my favorite. It's so funny. He is hilarious, and I loved that bit. Back on the ship, Sanji and the others end up getting knocked out by gas, and they are taken somewhere on the island to a facility. This is when Luffy's group kind of sees the difference between the ice and heat, and that's when Usopp spots Monet for the first time, though nobody else sees her. And Sanji's group, they wake up in this facility and discover a head or pieces of a head inside this room they're locked in, and this head is talking, and they decide to reorganize it, put it back together. It's so funny, and I love Sanji's dynamic with like everybody this arc. It's so funny, like how he's sitting here arguing with a decapitated head that is talking back to him. He argues with the Marines in this arc. He's arguing and like the way he interacts with everybody in this arc was just so funny. It was so great. I genuinely enjoyed Sanji in this arc. It's such a great transition from Fishman Island. So happy. As a Sanji fan, I was very, very happy with Sanji in this arc. But once they get the head back together, Frankie busts open the door and they come across the Biscuits room with all of these children inside who are being held captive. Listen, I said this in my read with me and in Fishman Island and probably several other videos that I've done, but leave kids alone. Like, these are small children who are being experimented on and the sake of them being healed because they're sick. That's like the darkest part of this arc, was Caesar's whole experimentation using kids, and then the others who happen across the island as well. That was super, super, super dark. But luckily, this arc had a lot more levity and a lot more lightheartedness with like the jokes and the alliance and everything, that it was a very good balance between things. I didn't get a lot of humor in Fishman Island, it felt to me, so having the humor in this arc was really, really appreciated, much needed. But they start being chased and the children are begging for them to be saved, and Nami puts her foot down and decides that she's going to save these kids. I love Nami in this arc. I love her love and attachment to these kids that she's never met. It's such a wholesome moment for her, and the determination she has to stand up for these kids and to help them out even though she doesn't know them, she doesn't have any obligation towards them. I love that for her. It's such a good moment for her. And another moment I really like is Sanji pretending that he doesn't care as much as he actually does. Like, he does this several times. First example with Kinemon, the samurai. So he pretends like he doesn't care about what happens to Kinemon because of how much they're arguing, but he takes him along anyways, has this responsibility for Kinemon, and ends up like wanting to help him get his body back together, goes after him everywhere he goes. Like, he cares so much more than he lets on. And the same with the Marines later on when he is saving the Marines from the gas and everything. Sanji is very much a very caring person. He shows it to these people in a very like irritated manner, because like with the Marines he's practically kicking them through the doors to get them to safety, like yelling at them to keep running, everything like that. Like, he doesn't want to be praised by men, he just wants to be praised by women. It's kind of funny. And he does the same thing with Kinemon. He like angrily cares for Kinemon. And I think I'm saying his name right. If I'm not saying Kinemon's name right, please correct me down below. But like, he aggressively cares for them in like an irritated manner, like a fine, I'll take care of you type. It's so funny. And he does this again with the kids in this situation at first, because he's like, we can't save everyone, we can't take care of all these kids, like what are we gonna do with them? Like, we can't house them on our ship, we can't take them back to their parents, like what can we do? But when he sees Nami's stubbornness and determination to save these kids, he's like, okay, fine, we'll save them. And so he aggressively starts caring for and protecting these kids because Nami's determined to save them. So he's like, well, I guess we're gonna save these kids now. So funny. I don't know why Sanji does this. He always has. We saw it a lot in previous arcs, like Water 7 in East Lobby, but also like in Skypiea. We saw it in Skypiea quite a bit, that he cares a lot more than he likes to admit he does, which I don't know why. I don't know why he does that. He's a much more compassionate person than he lets on. So it's interesting to see the dynamic of how he like aggressively cares for people he says he doesn't care about. It's so great. I love it. I love him. Then Brook makes contact with Usopp. Brook was left on the ship because they thought he was dead. Brook in this arc is great. I love Brook. He's fantastic. But Brook makes contact with Usopp about like the whereabouts of where they are and what's all going on, so that Usopp and Luffy's group, they kind of know what's happening. Luffy's group meets up with all these centaurs and they start fighting, and that's when we first see the initials of CC on, I think, on the Dindin Mushi that they have, and of course that's Caesar Clown, that it stands for, but we don't know that at the time. So many moving parts. Smoker arrives on the island and then starting to figure out that things are going weird. Then Luffy's crew is crossing the river and they get impeded on by the centaurs and the ocean underneath, because Akainu and Aokaji's fight like created like a massive crevice in the island that connects to the ocean, so there's beasts in the ocean. I also love the bit of when they're crossing the river of how Luffy and Robin are thinking about Zoro and Usopp dog paddling with them on their backs. So funny. But back in the Biscuits room, we see as they're trying to fight and leave, Kinemon is talking about like how he thinks his body is fighting something, and it ends up being his torso is fighting Brook, which is so random, but also a little nod to Brook's prowess as a swordsman, because Kinemon can't seem to defeat him. Thought that was just a little like good nod to Brook as a swordsman. Really liked that. But then Law and Smoker meet, and Law's like, why are you crashing my vacation home? Smoker's trying to figure out like why Law's there, because Punk Hazard is off limits, so they're having a heated conversation. Nami and Chopper, while trying to get the kids out with Sanji arguing with the samurai, they all run into Law and Smoker, and Law's like, well crap, they're here. Smoker starts to get confused because he knew the Straw Hats were there, but Law didn't seem to know they were there. just a lot of chaos. And once Nami and Chopper see that Smoker and Law are there, they try to backtrack and turn around and get the kids out of there because they don't want any of those problems. But then we get Law's Devil Fruit. His Devil Fruit power is so cool. The way he like flipped that ship and started switching everybody's hearts and all of that with each other. The part where they swapped bodies was so funny. I thought it was hilarious. But before we can get into that, we get back to Luffy defeating all the Centaurs and they take their clothes. And we get Brownbeard's appearance. Brownbeard was low-key like an MVP in this arc, just like how loyal he was to his people and how he was able to see Caesar's corruption, and then Luffy saving Brownbeard at the end of the arc. When we first met Brownbeard at the end of Marineford going into post-war, I could care less about him. I thought he was going to be like a throwaway character that was just going to be defeated off screen. We'd never see him again. I was wrong. He's here, and he's a cool character. I kind of like him. He's kind of cool. But then we get Law running into Luffy, and Caesar's introduction with his plots of everything that he wants to do. We get all of it revealed that Caesar and Vegapunk used to work together, and there was this huge incident on the island 4 years ago where everything blew up. There was a catastrophe, and Vegapunk took the blame for it, but it was actually Caesar who caused that accident. And of course, Caesar came back to Punk Hazard to get that poison, get that gas back together to create another weapon because he's a mad scientist. So he's plotting to make a display of the people on this island. But then we get this whole like worst generation thing of like the supernovas, and they included Blackbeard in the worst generation, I think. So now we have this like worst generation of pirates that I know is gonna make a huge impact in the new world, and I'm so ready for it. But then we split up again. Sanji, Brook, and Zoro head after the samurai to go find his torso, with Sanji in Nami's body. Chopper is in Sanji's body, I think, at this point, and he's listening to all these kids, and they're getting withdrawals because they've been given drugs, and they're having withdrawal symptoms, and he is getting furious. That panel of him just getting angrier and angrier when the kids are talking about the drugs and everything just sent chills down my spine, because that's so disturbing on so many levels. But they sedate the kids, and they have a very strong desire now to find Caesar because of all of this. And they need to find Law as well so they can swap their bodies back. And I love how Usopp puts the little like faces on top so they can tell who's who. The shenanigans they get up to when they're in the different bodies, especially like Frankie in Chopper's body and how Robin is so disturbed by him, is the funniest thing. Like the please don't ever say anything in his body again. I love Robin. Then we get the Yeti brothers, who are like these two Yetis that are under Caesar's control, and they are going off to rid people on Caesar's command. We get Law and Caesar's conversation about Joker, and let me just say, I was right. I thought Joker was Doflamingo. I was right. I was so right about that. It makes me so happy. We get more Doflamingo, and I'm not sure quite how to feel about that, because I feel like that's going to go downhill really quick in Dressrosa. But in this arc, it was fine. But yeah, the Yeti brothers had came to kill Brownbeard, and the Straw Hats save him, but Nami, who's in Frankie's body, gets taken, so the Straw Hats pursue him. Frankie takes a rumble ball because he's in Chopper's body, and he absolutely loses it. He can't control it. He ends up fighting both the Yeti brothers and Luffy has to punch him to like put him down, basically, to like calm him down, and Luffy defeats the Yeti brothers. It's so chaotic because of like the swapped bodies and how they're interacting, but it's so funny. And oh yeah, and actually Law was the one who defeated the other Yeti brother, and then Law comes to Luffy wanting to form an alliance because he has a plan to take down one of the 4 emperors, which I thought, dumb of me, of course. In my read with me, I thought that there was no way it would have been Kaido because we haven't been introduced to him. And then it was revealed at the end of the arc that it is Kaido that they're going after, so, you know, that's fine. I was totally wrong. I was really hoping they'd want to go after Blackbeard so we could get rid of Blackbeard, but, you know, it's fine. We can go after Kaido. I don't know who Kaido is, but he's in league with Doflamingo, who's producing all these Zoan Smile fruits, so he's obviously not a good person. So that's going to be interesting. But yes, Luffy agrees to the alliance, and the best alliance ever, well, second best to Buggy and Luffy and Impel Down, is born, because Law literally did not know what he was signing up for. And I love the panel when Usopp is telling Law that, look, Luffy's idea of an alliance is probably going to be way different than yours. You have no idea what you signed up for. If you thought you were in control of the situation, good luck, you aren't. The absolute, like, shock on Law's face at everything the Straw Hats do, especially when they tie Chopper to Law's hat. I love that so much. When I was reading this in the read with me, I was laughing so hard. These chapters were so funny because Law literally had no idea what hit him. I think I compared it in like this in the read with me, but Law is literally the introvert that got adopted by a bunch of extroverts, aka Luffy. And Luffy, of course, is going to do his own thing regardless of what plan there is, and that shows later on whenever they separate and then Law goes with Chopper, and Luffy is supposed to capture Caesar, and, you know, Smoker and Tashigi and all of them are up front, and then Luffy crashes into everything and is just like, I'm here to capture you, Caesar. And Law is just like, what is he doing? So funny. I was laughing so hard. But at this point, whenever Luffy crashes in to confront Caesar, Law had switched everybody back except for Nami and Sanji, because Sanji wasn't, or Nami, wait, okay, now I got confused. Nami's body, which Sanji is currently in, wasn't there, so Nami got switched to Sanji's body. So those two are the only ones who are not back in their proper place at the moment. Okay, got that situated. Law got dragged into Luffy's plans rather than Luffy just being dragged into Law's plans. Law was dragged along with Straw Hats, it's fine. Caesar released Smiley, this giant goop of poison slime, on the island, and Zoro's group is running from it because they come across it. And I thought it was really funny because Zoro actually got the right direction. He knew where the mountain was, he knew where the lake was. But then he's like, but that's not supposed to be there. That's when they see the slime. And that leads Sanji, once they figure out that the samurai's torso is in the water, which will soon be riddled with poison and the torso will die, essentially. Sanji has to make the decision to jump into the water in Nami's body to go retrieve the torso, and he does. I do love at this point in time that Sanji has completely won Kinemon over because of like how much he cares for him, even albeit very aggressively. And so the samurai's finally like, well, y'all are pirates, I'm supposed to hate pirates, but y'all are very kind, it's throwing me off, I am now in your debt. I love it. I really, really love it. Then we get Luffy taking Tashigi and Smoker out, who are in swapped bodies. So Luffy looks at Smoker, who is in Tashigi's body. It's like, oh, I'm not gonna fight you since you're not at your best. We'll try this again next time. The roast that boy has is incredible. I was like, dang, Luffy, like that is harsh, but that is hilarious. So the slime is starting to fall from the sky, and like the Marines are figuring out how dangerous it is. And then Caesar makes his grand appearance, thinking he's gonna like smooth talk everybody, make a grand showing of like everybody listening to his explanation and all of that. He's very much a talker, and his talking makes absolutely zero difference to Luffy because Luffy goes up and grabs him right off the bat says, "Oh, I got you." And Luffy was easily handling Caesar until, because of Caesar's gas fruit, it's not just like poison gas, he controls any gaseous thing, which includes the air. So it knocks Luffy out, and he ends up knocking everybody out in the square and escapes, and decides to put all of them in a cage together, along with Law, who had this appearance of Virgo, a traitorous marine who betrayed them to join forces with Doflamingo and Caesar because garbage. So Law, and Virgo has Law's heart, because that was like one of the conditions Caesar made when Law came to the island, so that they had like a leverage over each other. Don't know why Law agreed to that, but you know, it's fine. He just casually gave his heart out to somebody. So because Virgo had Law's heart, he easily defeated Law, and now all of them are locked in a cage, ready to be displayed to all of the brokers on the underworld to see how effective Caesar's new gas is, Caesar's new poison is. And Monet was a very interesting character this arc, because I couldn't quite figure out her true intentions, because she betrayed Law and passed Law on to Virgo, because Virgo's in cahoots with Joker, with Doflamingo. But she seems very loyal to Doflamingo rather than Caesar, and I might have read it wrong, I can't be quite sure, correct me if I'm wrong. Was she the one who tossed the note to Chopper saying not to interfere with anything? Because like there was a look after that happened, there was a look she kind of cast in Chopper's direction that made me think that she was not wanting Chopper to interfere because she knew something was going to happen. I wasn't really able to get a grasp on her character, but Caesar stabbed her heart at the end, so I don't know if we're ever going to get a grasp on her character, because I think she might be dead. But she seemed very loyal to Doflamingo, but she kind of maybe gave Chopper a warning. I'm not sure on that. So if it's not spoilers, can you explain that down below for me? But while they're all trapped in a cage, Sanji actually retrieves Kinemon's torso from the water after he kicks a shark, and uses the airwalk to get back up so he's not in danger. And Kinemon reveals himself as a samurai from Wano. He has a lot of respect and gratitude to the Straw Hats, and now that he's working with them, and he's called Foxfire Kinemon and can cut through fire, and that's how they escape the slime, which is really cool. And the way he uses like his sword as a samurai really piques Zoro's attention towards him, so they start kind of becoming buddy-buddy, and then Kinemon and Brook are buddy-buddy, and Sanji has this like older brother, I'm gonna take care of you, but I'm gonna be angry about it attitude. It's so funny. That whole dynamic with the group is great. But we get back to Caesar, who has now gone back to the kids to entice them with more candy, because they are going through withdrawals and are going crazy. He entices them with more candy, and he knocks out Nami, who's in Sanji's body, and who else is with her? Usopp. And Usopp and Nami, they can't stop him. Usopp tries to fight back against Caesar, but with his gas fruit, it's hard to, he can't hit him. And Brownbeard actually comes to save them once the kids are about to attack Usopp and Nami, but then Caesar defeats Brownbeard. And though Nami and Usopp were going to chase after the kids, Caesar catches up, knocks them out, and takes the kids back to the Biscuits room. Or is on their way to take them back to the Biscuits room. While Caesar's plan is starting to unfold, Zoro's group come across the giant candy that the slime is after, which the slime is a Zoan. And Caesar wants him to eat the candy because that makes him like explode into like this giant gas that's like, what is it, Land of the Dead or something? And when Smiley dies, it reveals a devil fruit. So did that devil fruit like come back into existence? Go. Beginning of Dressrosa has me thinking things about devil fruits coming back around, but that's besides the point. But Zoro's group ends up fleeing on a fleeing dragon. They ended up like kind of like hitching a ride with it and letting the dragon take them away from the spreading gas. But then we get Law ready to launch his counterattack because he was able to switch out his cuffs. But then we get over to a completely different location with Kid, Apu, and Hawkins, and they form an alliance. That's very interesting. That's another trio of supernovas that have formed together. I mean, I know Zoro and Luffy are on the same crew, so of course they're together, but then you add Law to it and you have 3 supernovas together like that. That's cool. So Law frees them and they start their counterattack. He switches back all of their bodies. I think it's still except for no, at that point, because I think everybody's like kind of like coming together. It's very chaotic. He switches Smoker into Shigi's body first and they start their counterattack. But then all the Straw Hats start to gather because Zoro's group makes it in before the gas gets there. And Nami's group is inside because they were going after the kids. So they're all trapped in the laboratory before the gas hits. And once they're there, they all get their bodies back to normal. And Law's instructing them to go to R66, this place where they can escape and get out. This is somewhere he really needs to go. From here on out until like towards the end, it's very chaotic because there's so many different groups. They're going everywhere. So I'm gonna try to summarize it best I can, but there's so many moving parts at the end of this arc. So it's gonna be a little chaotic, but it's fine. So Luffy's off to get to Caesar. Usopp and the others, they're on Brownbeard. Brownbeard is leading them to the next part just to keep them safe. Law and Smoker are together. Smoker is wanting to go after Virgo. Tashigi and the Marines are at first having beef with the Straw Hats, but then they're all trying to flee together. Law's off to find the SAD room, I guess it's the SAD room, I don't know if that's what it's called, but the SAD. He's going off to find that. And Chopper has figured out like the properties of the candy, how the drug is being used, so he's ready to treat the kids for that, I believe. And then at this point you get sections A and B are starting to be sealed off because Caesar is trying to trap them into one central area so he can again showcase his experiment for all of his underworld brokers, and he thinks if he can get everybody into a small area and just poison them and gas them all right then and there, it'd be a great demonstration. But as one of the areas is getting sealed off, Tashigi, who is in the back, actually gets thrown through the doors by some of her Marines, and the picture of them giving her the thumbs up as she's getting tossed through, it's very sad. I felt really bad for her because the Marines, despite how some of them are, they can be very loyal, and I really loved that moment for them. I really enjoyed the Marines in this arc, if I'm being honest. G5, great Marines, great Marine group. Besides Virgo, he's excluded from that. But after she's saved by Marines, the others who are with her as they're continuing to run think they're saved because Virgo comes, and Tashigi tries to warn them that Virgo is not on their side, but it's too late as she is attacked and they are attacked. I really love the complexity to this because the Marines don't want to believe that Virgo could be this horrible, horrible person. They think it's some sort of clone. And Tashigi, though she knows that is Virgo, that Virgo did betray them, she feeds into that because she doesn't want to break the Marines' heart because they did see Virgo as such an important figure that they looked up to and that they were inspired by. So she kind of lets sleeping dogs lie in a sense and lets them believe that, like, yes, this was a copy, that this wasn't really Virgo. So it really did add more to the Marines and to Tashigi. It was a great moment for them. But Virgo easily knocks down all of them, and as Tashigi is knocked down and she is crying, Sanji comes back to attack Virgo because he said he could hear the sound of a woman's tears and he knew he was needed. First of all, how is his hearing that good? Is that part of hockey? Is that part of his hockey? Because I think that's really cool that he can hear that well. But Luffy finds Caesar and he starts attacking Caesar, and Caesar is not really standing a chance against Luffy. Luffy learned from the first time he fought him about the gas and how it works. He's doing really well at avoiding Caesar's attacks, and Caesar would have probably been defeated by Luffy right then and there if Monet hadn't showed up with her snow abilities to fight against Luffy and to protect Caesar. He ends up fighting with Monet and shoots through the floor and ends up in like the dump or basement area, which is like a trash heap. But that's where he comes across little Momonosuke, this perverted little boy who's in the form of a dragon, because he ate an artificial devil fruit, the Smile Zoan fruit, and became a dragon. So while Luffy is chilling with the dragon down in the basement, Law has reached SAD and Virgo is fighting against Sanji. Virgo breaks one of Sanji's bones in his leg, which is crazy because you know how strong Sanji's legs are. That's insane. But then that's when we get the Sanji and Marine team up, I would say, and they kind of escape from Virgo in that situation. Sanji kind of convinces the Marines to keep moving, that they're working together right now whether they like it or not, and he aggressively pushes them forward, and the Marines, on Tashigi's orders, go to look after the children, to get to the children. And Virgo heads out to another safe spot while everything's being closed off because of the smoke. Or not because of the smoke, because of the gas and poison. He goes off and has a leisurely call with Doflamingo, who's on Dressrosa, and talking about Law's betrayal. And Dofi says that he needs to get rid of Law right then and there because he betrayed them, so Virgo sets out to do that. But then we get Chopper, who is in Monster Point form for a little bit, trying to protect or fend off the children who are now in another fit of rage, while trying to protect Mocha, this one girl who came to her senses and realized that the Straw Hats were trying to save them. She remembers Nami and she remembers Chopper. She remembers all of them trying to help them, and she's hiding all of the candy, has it all in her hand so the other kids can't get it, and is trying to escape them pursuing her, which is why Chopper's trying to protect them, but Chopper doesn't want to hurt them, so he's taking all these hits. He ends up coming out of monster form, and the other Straw Hats come and they're trying to defend Mocha from all of these kids, and it's so sad because they don't want to actually fight the kids because they could very easily hurt them, so they're trying not to hurt these kids in the most gentle way that they can, but Mocha is still having to run for her life because they keep pursuing her, because the withdrawal and the desire for the candy is that strong. But of course, to make things worse, Monet comes to confront the Straw Hats and Mocha and all the kids to get them to get the candy. We get Virgo versus Law, and unfortunately it's kind of a shorter battle because Virgo still has Law's heart at this point, but Smoker comes in to save Law, and then he starts fighting Virgo. And all this time Caesar is just still like watching everything happening, still planning on trapping and killing everybody and like narrowing the space where they can be without poison gas, like little by little, until they're all going to be in one area. We have Sanji saving the Marines' butts by like kicking them into the next room to escape the gas because maybe they're not fast enough, they're not running quick enough, so he's like kicking them into the next room so that they can all escape. He barely makes it out of one of the rooms, but does. We have Zoro, who goes against Monet, he is on the defensive at first, just trying to make sure that Monet doesn't get to the kids, doesn't get to Nami and Usopp and Chopper as they're trying to get to the kids. So Zoro is fending off Monet while the others are going after the kids. I love this moment. It's such a small moment, but it made me laugh so hard when Sanji comes bursting into the room with all the Marines behind him, and he's like leading the charge because the Marines are like totally fine with being led by a pirate now. It's cool. And Zoro's so shocked to see them there. But then Sanji leading the Marines are passing Zoro, and he says, "Pull your lower lip out and taunt him." And and he gets all the Marines to just sit there and taunt Zoro, and Zoro's just like, "I hope they slip on ice and fall." I don't know why, but that took me out. That made me laugh so hard. Their interaction right then and there was hilarious. But after Sanji and the rest of G5 go ahead, Tashigi stays behind with Zoro to take care of Monet. That whole fighting sequence with Tashigi and Monet, and then Zoro and Monet, and like Tashigi and Zoro's interactions was very, very fun. Very fascinating. I love their dynamic because they're very much enemies and rivals, but there is respect there for each other, and I love that. So Tashigi fails to take out Monet, and Zoro saves Tashigi from being killed by Monet. Then he basically like intimidates Monet to the point that she doesn't want to attack him when he cuts through her, but doesn't use his haki so he doesn't kill her. It's like a warning shot, and like intimidates Monet so much. But then Tashigi goes in for the final blow. Their banter, especially when the gas is coming and they have to flee, and Zoro ends up having to carry Tashigi, and she is so appalled by the idea that she has to be carried by Zoro. Is so funny. And then she gets distracted by his swords, and he's just like, what are you doing? That whole interaction was hilarious. I loved it. It was such a cool moment for the two of them. But as the Straw Hats are still trying to fend off the kids, and the kids are surrounding Mocha, she decides to eat all the candy so that nobody else will. And the fact that it could have killed her so easily, and she was so willing to do that and put herself through that just because she loved the other kids that much, and she was so afraid of what was going to happen to them if they were continuing to be on this island because of what Chopper had explained to her, was so sad. There weren't a lot of like sad moments in this arc, which personally I was okay with. I needed a little bit of a reprieve, but that moment pricked my heart a lot. I got teary-eyed when Mocha ate all that candy, and then seeing her on the ground coughing up blood was just so devastating, because that poor child put so much into her system because she loves and cares for all of these kids around her and wants to be able to go home with everybody. But after she eats all the candy, that's when all the Marines come in, and the Straw Hats and Marines are able to subdue everybody, and Chopper goes to treat Mocha immediately. And we get this confrontation with Brownbeard and Caesar, where Caesar basically just mocks Brownbeard for believing in him and tries to give him a sedative, and really just makes a fool of Brownbeard before almost killing him, until Luffy comes in, knocks Caesar away. And I love it. It's so sweet. It's such a small little gesture. But when Luffy just pats Brownbeard's head, that is just the sweetest thing ever. And that's when we get the explanation about the smile the devil fruits produced in the factory, on Doflamingo's orders, on Kaido's orders. So it's like a whole hierarchy of who is wanting these drugs made, who is making these drugs. It's a whole thing. And Virgo ends up getting defeated by Law, because while Smoker was attacking him, even though Smoker was losing, he was distracting Virgo long enough for Law to get his heart back undetected, and then Law just completely obliterates Virgo, even though Doflamingo's on the Denden Mushi's thing, like, oh, well, you can't defeat Virgo due to like past trauma or blah blah blah, and Law just literally shuts him up by saying nope, and cuts Virgo in half, which makes me wonder what trauma it is. I really want to know about like Law's relationship with Doflamingo and how all that works. I'm sure I'm gonna get it in Dressrosa, so we're getting there. But yeah, Law destroys it, and destroys like half the island as well with his slice, and then like puts all of Virgo's body parts like up on the railing. You know, deserved. And then Luffy defeats Caesar with Gear 3 with one blow. He like calmly walks into the hall. Caesar tries to mock him, thinking he's running away. All the soldiers watching thinks he's running away, and Usopp is being able to watch through the monitors. He's like, no, you don't know my captain. He's not running away. Caesar's the type of person he hates most. And Luffy proves that by going Gear 3 and just clobbering Caesar, sends him flying, which makes Law so mad, because he's like, you were supposed to capture him. You were supposed to kidnap him. And Luffy's like, oh well. But Usopp now on the monitor is able to guide everybody back to, so that they can all be together again, so they can escape. You have Law coming in with like the SAD cart thing that everybody starts to ride in. And Law needs to go after Caesar so that his plan can stay on track. But then we get Baby 5 and Buffalo arriving that are sent from Doflamingo. I love how Baby 5 and Buffalo find Frankie, and Frankie just like keeps attacking them, and their attacks are not at all effective on Frankie, and he just keeps blasting him and blasting him. And while that's all happening, Caesar is seeing this, thinking he can still get the one up on like Law and Smoker because he thinks he has Smoker's heart. Law tricked him. He has Monet's heart, and he accidentally stabs Monet's heart as she's about to set off an explosion that would have destroyed everything. But because Caesar did that, she collapses after saying goodbye to Doflamingo, and the explosion doesn't go off. And that's when Doflamingo starts heading towards Punk Hazard. We actually have Usopp and Nami having a really cool moment to display their power. They're the ones who finish off Baby 5 and Buffalo. They easily destroy them and send them packing, and Usopp captures Caesar with the Sea Prism cuffs, which he had been looking for a long time in the facility as they were running. He captures Caesar, and Law is able to get Caesar so that his plan can move forward. Well, luckily, before Doflamingo arrives, we have all these funny antics with the Marines and the pirates, how they're like drawing the line of like what side's the pirate side and the other side is Marines. It's so funny because as soon as Sanji starts cooking, all the Marines are like, oh, well, we'll discuss this line later. Let's eat, let's have a party. It's so funny, especially because Law is like, hey, we need to get a move on. And then Luffy's like, no, let's have a feast, let's have a party. We won. I love that dynamic. All the antics that the Marines and the pirates got up to was great. And then after the feast and they try to draw the line again, we have the kids departing with the Marines, which they should, so that the Marines can deliver them home. And we get the Marines trying to be really mean to the Straw Hats and try to tell the kids that they're no good and that they don't need to say goodbye. But the Marines can't do it, and they admit that if they don't say all these mean things, they'll really think about like how nice these pirates are, how much they like them, and because they're Marines, they don't feel like they can allow themselves to do that. It's such a cool moment, and I love Smoker and Tashiki's reaction to it. Smoker's just kind of like, whatever. He kind of just lets it happen, and the kids do get their goodbye with the Straw Hats before they leave. So with the Alliance, Law and everybody, because they want to take down Kaido, Law is going to go out with the Straw Hats, so everybody's kind of going their own separate ways. The Marines are staying to kind of take care of the situation on Punk Hazard with everybody who had been caught in the poison gas so that they could free them, because as we figured out you could, like with Kinemon, he got freed and reunited with Momonosuke, so that was great. So everyone's kind of heading out. The kids are going off somewhere safe. A lot of the Marines are staying there to take care, like damage control, and then the Straw Hats are headed towards Dressrosa with Law. When Law makes this lovely, lovely phone call with Doflamingo, and I'm telling you, the guts that Law has to do this to Doflamingo is fantastic. I loved it. It was like shocking, but in the best way possible. Threatening Doflamingo with how SAD is ruined, and the deal with him needs to go through because, well, you don't want to make Kaido angry because Kaido's the one you have to answer to, and if something happens, you're gonna be the one to catch the fallout, which gets to Doflamingo, and he gets angry and then starts leaning into it, asking Law, what do you want as your, like, what do you want? What deal do you want to strike? Law says in order to return Caesar, Doflamingo has to retire from the 7 warlords by the next morning. He needs to see it in the paper. I mean, just the guts Law has to do to pull a move like that. And Doflamingo at first is so angry, doesn't want to do it. but he forces Doflamingo's hand. And then Doflamingo goes to Punk Hazard because he's angry. Before that, I will say a little tidbit on Luffy and Law's conversation about Kaido. First of all, we know Kaido is like he's called the King of Beasts, the most powerful creature in the world, so he's not human. But then we also get that Luffy wants to challenge all 4 emperors. He wants to crush all 4 emperors, which means in his mind he's gonna crush Shanks. Now what is that fight gonna look like? How are they even gonna fight? How is that gonna work? I don't know. But I'm like, oh my gosh, Luffy, ambitious much? And it goes into play when Law's talking to Smoker about the alliance, and Smoker's like surprised that Law didn't betray them, or like, but Law's using the Straw Hats, and then Law's like, I wonder who's using who because of Luffy's goal and what he wants. That whole thing is cool. I have a lot of thoughts on that. But Law does force Doflamingo's hand by giving him such a quick deadline, saying that he had to make up his mind like immediately, pretty much. Doflamingo goes to Punk Hazard. He's infuriated and starts causing chaos, uses his Conqueror's Haki to start dropping people, and then starts fighting and is about to kill Smoker when Aokiji arrives. Because this man is no longer part of the Marines, we're unsure of where his loyalty lies. Doflamingo asks what his intentions are, and Aokiji doesn't give an answer. So it's like, who is he working for now? Is he working for anybody? What side is he on? Like, who does he want to affiliate with? That I have so many questions about Aokiji. But Aokiji comes, and once Aokiji like freezes Doflamingo once to stop him from attacking Smoker, Dofi decides he doesn't want that smoke, so he ends up leaving Dressrosa. And Aokiji asks the Marines to not mention that he was there and kind of make sure that Smoker will tell Akainu to keep an eye on Doflamingo, because if he's not a 7 warlord, he's up for grabs. He can be arrested or killed at that point, so I mean, let's go. And he ends up resigning. He does do what Law says. He resigns from being the 7 warlords. It's in the paper the next morning, along with the information about Kid's alliance with the other 2 supernovas. Law gets a call from Doflamingo saying, okay, what is the deal? I held up my end, now you gotta hold up yours. So Law makes a deal to relinquish Caesar to Doflamingo, and they're headed to Dressrosa. There is also, I don't know if I want to talk about this now or in Dressrosa. I think I'll talk about it in Dressrosa. But the way Luffy talks to Doflamingo on the phone is so funny, but also Doflamingo has something that Luffy might want. But I'm going to talk about that in Dressrosa. That is my review. I talked so fast in this one. I already know I talked fast, but it's fine. It's fine. That is my review of Punk Hazard. I thought this was a great arc. I love the dynamics with Law and the Straw Hats, especially Law and Luffy. Law just literally has no idea what he got himself into, and I don't think he's ever going to escape this alliance, if I'm being honest. He's literally stuck with Luffy now, and I think that is the most hilarious and best thing that could have ever happened to Law. So I'm looking for more of those shenanigans. I'm excited to learn more about Doflamingo and Law and Dressrosa to see where all of that goes. I'm excited to learn about Kaido and like being like the beast, like a beast, the strongest creature to exist, and like the operations that he's running. There's so much going on, but we are on our way to Dressrosa, and it's gonna be good. So thank you all so much for watching this video. Make sure you're on the lookout for what is coming next. I did a Luffy character analysis last week. If you didn't see that, make sure to go check it out. My read with me was last week as well. Go check out my channel, my community tab, so you can see what you missed, so you can catch up. September is going to be full of great videos, and then I have a huge month planned for October, so be on the lookout for that. It is coming up quicker than I thought. So yes, I hope you liked my review. I know I talked really fast about things, and I kind of skimmed through a few things, but I did get all of the information in this arc, but there was just a lot to talk about. Other than that, thank you all so much for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this arc, And I will see you next time, scholars. Bye!